Around the Block with Cody Diesbourg and Brigitte Pellerin.
Okay, so do you want to talk about the role of parents then?
Sure, it's a big one.
Because it's something that's been on my mind a lot because I am a parent.
Yep.
And it's difficult because I'm sensei mom. So I combine both roles of teacher and I homeschool too. So in my life, my
hats.
parenting is pretty hands-on. And there's been a couple of times lately, that's why this has been on my mind, where I have had to, sometimes people tell me, take a step back, let them be. But also I see that myself sometimes that I need to step back a little bit and let the kids make their own mistakes, let them learn the lessons from some other teacher sometimes. And so this has made me wonder, what really is the best way, or if there's such a thing, for a parent who sees their child take up a new sport, and how do you want to support them and help them be the best they can be at that sport?
Well, from the thousands of families, really, over the years that I've come in contact with, that I've been able to teach, I've seen a lot of do's and don'ts. However, it didn't work for every family, right? So it's very much a trial and error thing. But I think the biggest thing is admitting if you make a mistake and then trying to correct it.
You, the parent, make a mistake?
You, the parent, yes, yeah.
So you have to come up to your child and say, listen, I made a mistake. I was wrong about this. So that's what you're saying?
Pretty much, level with them. But usually there's a piece where the kid is also wrong too. So it actually allows them to feel comfortable with admitting that they're also maybe in part fault for this. And then it makes it easier to correct it. But every time that I've dealt with a student and their parents, it's been a teachable moment for more the parents than the kids, is what I've noticed. Just because they don't really know what the right answer is.
Hey, parenting is one of those things. You have no idea. If the kids realize how much we don't know, they'd have a different view of this. But yeah, we sometimes just basically have no idea what to do.
Yeah, and that's what we do when we're teaching karate too, though, right? Is until you get the experience level of being able to run a class and deal with all the things that are going to come at you, because I still see new things every day.
I'm sure.
Where I just shake my head and go, what just happened today? I felt like an amateur instructor, right? But it's all, you take each lesson, you take each feeling like that, and you try to grow off of it, right? And when I'm teaching the parents how to teach their kids, a lot of the time it's the two big things that I use with the students, and one is a controlled decision. And what I mean by that is I'm not going to make the decisions for them. However, I may lay out a couple good options. And then that student still has the opportunity to take control of the situation, you know, or even add in another, I give them room to add in another decision too, right? And then we go over it and they choose which one it is. So the best way I can give an example is, like, you know, if you ask a group of children what movie they wanted to watch for movie night, you would hear a million different ideas and nobody would be happy.
Right.
Right? But if you say, okay, did you want to watch this movie or this movie?
Right.
Then they all go, wow, I want to do this one, I want to do this. And then you have more of an understanding that it's a vote, it's a democracy,
right?
And then people are more okay with it, and then from there they can really shoot off and do what they wanted to do, because they have a little bit more focus.
Right.
Because let's face it, kids need focus.
Oh dear,
right?
Do they?
They also need structure.
They do,
and they strive for structure, and they don't have the life experiences yet to lay out those options a lot of the time. I mean, some kids are really smart. they stump me. But there's also that moment to be able to show them that, okay, well, let's lay it out. And then let's go from there. And I find that is number one, is giving those controlled decisions. And then the second thing is basically talking to them more like a grown-up, you know?
We don't do baby talk.
We don't do baby talk, no. And we basically tell them what's good, like what we think will happen. You know, if it's something where it's a disciplinary thing, we talk it out and we say, okay, well, I like the fact that we've talked about this. Here's the outcome. If you do this, this will be good, right? If you do this, this is what the repercussions will be. And then excuse me, no matter what you do, you have to follow through with it.
Right.
Because otherwise it's an empty promise,
you're doomed. Yeah.
whether it's a good one or a bad one.
Yeah.
And
they'll never trust you again.
They won't trust. No.
That's it.
No. And then they kind of go, okay, well, I got the free reign of this one.
Uh-huh.
Right? So you have to be able to follow up with what you're saying. However, if it's disciplinary, I always leave my students with the thought of the good one, right? So we might go through, okay, what happened? Oh, right. So what does that mean? Right? And I ask a lot of questions to help them process.
Right.
You know, what does that mean? So what's going to happen next? And all right, well, here's what I think what'll happen, and here's what I think the options are. You know, so here, you know, you got to do better. You got to work harder at it. Are you going to work harder? Yes. Well, then great. You know, and then you pump them up to make them end on a high note of, I know you're awesome. I know you can do this. And I believe that you're gonna achieve this next goal. You know, and I'm going to check back with you so that we make sure we're both on the same track. So I want to hear good things. You know what? I know I'm going to hear good things.
Right.
Right? And so you leave them with that good feeling, because it always sucks when you go in to talk to somebody of authority and you come out not listening to any of it.
Right.
Just because they came at it from a wrong approach, where they're either raising their voice, you know, or judging.
And making the kid be too defensive.
Right. If you get their
They're
defenses
not-
up, you're not going to get anything out of them.
It still works with adults.
Oh, 100%.
Right? You have a fight with your girlfriend. Not that it would ever happen, but say somebody has a fight with their partner, and one of them has their defenses up. Nobody's listening to each other.
No.
It's attack, defend, attack, defend, attack, defend. And you wind up exhausted after 2 hours. Everybody's crying and it's miserable. Adults do this. Kids do this. We all do, because that's how human beings are wired. So yeah, that's a good one.
Trying to meet in the middle.
Yeah, it's not always easy.
Common ground, or at least start from common ground, right? So that you can work towards...
Oh, you mean with the kids?
Man,
Still, so I was still with the partner fight here.
Yeah, that's true.
Kids are way easier when you come right down to it. Yeah.
I think so.
Oh, yeah. Here's a common thing that I see a lot with parents is the kids start, and I see it with karate, but I'm sure it's true in other sports. They're all gung-ho. They want to do it. Yeah. Want to do it. 2 months in, they don't want to come anymore. They're tired. They're screaming. They're in tears. They don't want to come at all to class. They're done. And the parents are looking at the kids saying, I can't believe this. You so wanted to do it. You bugged me for months and months and months. We signed you up. We paid for 6 months or a year or whatever it is, right? And no, we're not throwing this money away, number one. Number two, you said you wanted to do it. You have to follow through, because in life you have to follow through with your promises. Because we make the kids commit to it, and you have to follow through on your commitment. But the kids just have a huge fight. And even if you push them to come, and then they get to class, and then they just balk, right? They sit there and they refuse to do things. What do you tell the parents? When is it a right time for the parents to say, okay, we'll take a break? Couple of weeks or a month or a week, or when should you just keep pushing?
You know what? If we're just talking about karate itself right now, because those other sports are different, but when we're talking about karate, I totally believe that the parents should not decide that the kid should have a break. I believe that it's something that it needs to be talked to with their instructor. And that way their instructor can really figure out what the reason is.
What's really going on.
Because there's so much that goes into our lessons and our classes, and there's so much you can get out of it, that you can really kind of reframe what the student is looking for, because everyone grows. So if they came in because they wanted more confidence and now they're the most confident person, they might be feeling a little empty in class, right? So then there's something else they can sink their teeth into. You know, you open one door and it opens up a whole bunch more, but they might not know what there is, right? But definitely something where if the kids are you know, fighting to get in, there is a point where it becomes, you know, resentful. You know, so always I make sure my students come in and talk to us about it, and we go through it with the parents. And then it's a matter of, okay, well, can we reframe it? Can we make it better? And then, you know, let's try to have that commitment piece, and let's try to keep going with it for this much more time to see how you do. But you have a level of commitment where you got to really help mom and dad get in here, you know, because this is something that you wanted, right? So you kind of lay everything on the line. But yeah, it's a tough one to decide. It's different from case to case. And that's why I think it's best that they talk to the instructor. because they're going to know your kids' progress the best.
Right.
They see them every day on the floor and see how they've grown on the floor mentally as well as physically, right? So that's what I try to do with my guys. And then there is points where I say, you know what? Yeah, it's gotten to the point where everything we do next is going to be resentful, and they're never going to want to come back to karate ever again.
Right.
So
and then it spills over into other things. Like they have their
right.
schoolwork, then they'll resist there, and that's what the parents say. I mean, I insist on schoolwork and good academic results, and there's only so many fights I can have with my 5-year-old.
Yep.
Right? So yeah.
But then there's also one thing that I add with it is if they're going to take a break, that they do something. Right? Because a lot of times, especially with like social media and video games and
and the iPad. Yeah.
And just being the friend groups, especially when you get a little bit older into the teenage years, they can be distractions.
Right.
Right? And it doesn't matter what you want to do, that same problem or that same thing is going to distract you from whatever you want to do.
Right.
So if it's going to go across the board, then you might as well keep with it and try to push through until you find that next level, right?
Yeah. Who was it that said, no matter where you go, there you are? If you think you can avoid your problems, if you think you have a problem in karate and you say, well, I'll take a break from karate and go do something else instead, your problem is probably going to follow you because they're with you, because they're part of you. So you might as well try to deal with them where you are. But sometimes, and I've had this with my 3 kids, when they started karate, super gung-ho, super keen. After a while, they all went through this at various times, but they didn't want to do it for a while. And then we agreed, me and with them, that, okay, we could go a few times less often this week or for the next couple of weeks. Sure, you could take a little break, but not a real break, like not going. But you can do a bit, maybe instead of 4 classes or 3 classes a week, okay, we'll drop 1. So during that time, you could do something else that you would like. And then they'd come up with something, and they would be allowed to do watching a nature documentary. It was one of my middle child really was into this. Okay, that was fine. And then after a little while, okay, you want to come back to karate? And then eventually they all kind of grew out of it. And then they became gung-ho again, and that was nice to see. And I didn't really have to fight that much, but I see some kids sometimes where it's a real struggle.
But then again, there's kind of a controlled decision right there too, right?
That's right.
Like
yeah.
we were talking about was you're not giving them the total freedom to drop everything on a dime.
No.
You're giving them that choice to bring it down a notch.
That's right.
And to see how things go and to add some other things and play around with it.
And this is a trick that I had learned. I think it was Super Nanny. I don't know if you remember this. She had a TV, possibly still has it. I think it was a trick from one of her books. And she said with little kids, because I had this book when my kids were very small. And, when you try to give them a bath at night, and this will resonate, I'm sure, with other parents, so use that trick, it works. And the kid doesn't want to take a bath, and it's time to take a bath, and there's no issue, you can't, but you're going to have, with the 2-year-old, you're going to have this endless yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no fight, and it will go on forever. And she would say, don't give the child control over the yes or no. Give the child control over something that doesn't actually matter, but they think does. Are we having a bath with the blue ducky or the red ducky? I think that was her example.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the kid has full control. The red one. Are you sure? The red one. Okay. The red one it is. And they feel good about themselves because they've controlled something. They were in charge of something, and they still have their bath. And everybody's a winner. And this trick to me was just such an eye-opener. I read it and said, well, that's kind of silly. And I tried it, and bang, it worked.
It's funny.
That was it. I was a convert.
I got a funny one for you. There was a student that came in, and it was oppositional defiance disorder.
Yeah, odd.
Was a big thing. And the entire 45-minute class, out of that entire class, he did 5 minutes of karate.
Right.
But for 40 minutes, I was in a battle of the minds trying to hold my ground against this kid, just because I knew that this class was going to make the rest of his training the way it was. And there had to have been that authority figure, right? And he was trying to take control of the class.
Right.
And I was like,
you can't have that happen.
You can take control of what you do with your martial arts, but I'm in control of the class.
Right.
And so it was all about where he was going to stand in class.
Right.
We line up with the higher ranks at one end and the lower ranks at the other end. But he wanted to line up where he wanted to line up. And I said, no, dude. I said, this is going to be your spot. This is your spot right here. Look, it's even got your name on it. And he kind of looks down and he's like, it doesn't have my name on it. And I'm like, I know, but imagine your name right there. It's right there. And he goes, no, I want to stand over there. And I'm like, yeah, that's not your spot. I'm like, do you want to do karate today? He's like, only if I stand over there. And I said, well, you're allowed to do karate today, but this is your spot. So it's your choice.
That's it.
If you want to do karate, you're going to stand right here. If not, why don't you just stay? He goes, I'm going to leave. I'm like, no, you don't get to leave either. I said, here's your choice. You stay in class.
That's right.
You're going to stay in class, but here's your choice. You can either stand right here and do karate, or you can sit there and watch and learn.
Right.
And he was just like, I'm sitting down. And then every couple minutes, 5 minutes, went over. Hey, buddy, you ready to do karate? Yeah, I'm ready. All right, here's your spot. No! And then I was like, all right, well, let's keep going. And I'm looking at the window, and the parents are all kind of giving me this look like, what the heck is this instructor doing? Because I was really spending a lot of time with this one kid. Mm-hmm. But if I didn't spend the time with him, it would have taken away from the entire class.
Right.
And I had other instructors that were teaching and on the floor with me. So it wasn't like I just left the entire class. I managed it. But it was something where I knew I had to spend that time with this kid. And in the end, the last 5 minutes, I did like a little fun game thing, right? Uh-huh. And we call it a game, but it's really a drill. and so I was like, okay, you ready to do karate? He goes, yeah, but I'm going to do it right there. And he points at the spot
that you had said.
That I had said.
There
like
you
it was
go.
his choice. And I was like, perfect, because that's your spot. Let's go.
Awesome.
We did 5 punches, sat down and bowed out class.
Well,
and
hey, that's a victory.
I did. I looked at the parents and I held up my arms and they're all like looking at me funny. And I had to go to the parents and explain. To them. Mm-hmm. But I got a huge thank you from his mother and father. And ever since then, I mean, the kid's gone up now. He's now in our black belt member program, and he's trying to be a leader. That's his thing. He wants to be a leader because he wants that extra little bit of control too, right?
Yeah, that's a good one. I like the little kids when they get distracted a little bit, and I make them do a mean face contest while we do techniques.
Oh, yes.
Right? So you're there doing your blocks, and they get tired and bored easily. So after doing it once or twice, they don't want to do it anymore, and they start spinning and stuff. But then I decide that we're going to have a contest. And sometimes I appoint one of them to judge. You're going to watch all of this, and they have to do the blocks properly, but then the best mean face will win. And now suddenly they're all looking at each other, and they love that feeling of, hey, so everybody gets to be a judge, right? Who's got the best mean face or the best smile or whatever. And it still gets them working, but it gives them that extra little bit of, hey, suddenly I have some power in this class. I can pick the winner. And they all get to pick the winner, and I try to guide them so that everybody gets to be a winner at least once. But sometimes it has bought me 10 minutes of absolute great peace and good practice for the kids. Yeah. There's always that issue of having some control, but you can't let them control the big questions, because then the kid's going to rule your life.
Right. It's
like sometimes, and it's not related to karate so much, but I see sometimes parents trying to get the kids, okay, it's time to go now. And the kids say, yeah, no. And so I've seen children 4 years old blow off their parents. No, we're not leaving now. And the parents taking it.
Yep.
And I want to rip my hair. I said, no, you don't understand just how much trouble you're buying yourself if you're letting the kid be in charge of the schedule.
Up over the years, right?
That's
the more you do it, the more it becomes a habit.
That's right.
And the same thing could be said for the other way, right? Where you're coaching your kid to the right end, or at least those controlled decisions where you're giving them some choice. It's like that becomes a habit too,
right.
Where it's going to promote the right things that you want your kid to.
And habit being second nature, the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Well, eventually they can take control of it entirely.
Yeah,
right?
And they can tell their friends, no, you should do it like that, and you should do this way, and then they all get to teach each other, which is kind of cool.